Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To some of y'all, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. I'll get right to it and tell you that the real problem with Pearl Davis is not new, it's old. Everyone is allowed to feel how they feel about her, but many of us have decided up until now to make an issue out of this, and I have been telling folks for the longest. And I side with Crimson Cure in this so far. I've been telling folks for the longest that what we're seeing from her is not a betrayal. It's not a treachery. She has clarified her stance. I give her credit for being honest. And I've stated to you before that Wyatts can be very aware when it comes to gender, and they cannot be aware when it comes to race. They usually are not. They actually follow a lot of conservative non-black societies when it comes down to that. People here where I live probably have a fear of black folks running things. But they are not about to sit up here and let feminism rule the day. It's probably going to anyway. So in the end, it comes down to this, that Pearl is not going to go against her racist interest. She will say, listen, we women need to be ruled. We need to be run. We need to be told what to do. But one of the reasons why some of these conservative white women will say these things is because in the end, it's better for their race and they know it. What they say about gender is because of its benefit to their race and its civilization. And their race has more than one civilization, but the Western European white civilization is pretty much one. It is, and I mean, I'm saying O-N-E, not W-O-N, but it has one as well, as it is the number one. It is not just topping everyone else's civilization in terms of dominance, but and that's waning. I get it. It's not going to last forever, but it is also a unified civilization. Things go their way. They choose how things are going to go, and these things go that way. This is important for us to understand. We're not looking at a situation in which they're divided per se. They may be divided when none of us are in the room. When somebody that's not one of us walks in the room, they're divided. And the darker that person is and the more different that person looks from them, the more unified they get. If the Arabs were not majority Muslim, they probably would have been accepted into whiteness by now, and they would have been glad to take it even with them being Muslim. Non-black Arabs are an issue, and I've stated this before. Pearl already said something about slavery not being that bad, and she's even admitted it was terrible, but it wasn't as bad. They want to make it more terrible. I don't know. I mean, the fact that it happened and the fact that whites would not tolerate this sort of thing being done to them but were willing to do it is bad enough. And to be honest with you, I found out that Job bin Solomon, also known as Ayub bin Suleiman, a Mandinka noble who was involved in the slave trade of other Mandinka peoples, was a Shisa Pit. He won his freedom in the colonial North America before it was the United States, when it was still British. Won his freedom, went back to Africa and messed around and went back into the slave trade. When he won his freedom, and he was only enslaved because he had already been enslaving other Mandinkas. He was enslaved by a rival faction that had targeted him specifically. And when he made it back home to the continent, he went right back into that for which he had been enslaved in the first mother cuss word place. He was also a Shisa Pit. But Pearl's been that way. Pearl, without hatred, still has certain ideas of the betterness or the normality of her people. She is right when it comes to gender. She's wrong when it comes to race. And many of us are in a debate over that when we should not be. We really should be able to simply say she gets it when it comes to gender. She doesn't get it when it comes to race. As a matter of fact, her ability to get it when it comes to gender is because that is what is better for her race, and she knows it. We need to just be honest about that. It's always been that way. They've always been that way, and they're going to always be that way. They can't do it any other way. Conservative white women are the way they are about race and the way they are about gender, and those two being opposites, because whites are beginning to realize that this is better. And one of the ways that one reason for which they've always known this is because they took feminism and peddled it to black folks. It was used to stymie the black movement. They sat back and seen what its effects are. First, a matriarchy without the feminism, then throw feminism into the mix to cement the matriarchy. They see the condition of our population and our community in not just North America, but even in the UK, where she lives. Even in the Anglophone Caribbean. They see what's going on. We should not act like we were surprised. We should have never been surprised for 1 second about this. That's why I'm looking at you like y'all are some kind of idiot sometimes. Sorry for that noise. I just had to kill a bug. It's sad to say, but it's true. I don't blame any of you, generally speaking, for liking her when it comes to gender or disliking her when it comes to race. Obviously, that's the stance I'm taking. But I blame any of you who act like this is a surprise. This was no surprise. And there's no way that she's about to sit up here and run any Manosphere. And not no black Manosphere. That's not about to happen. We have been a bit too easy when it comes to allowing people to gain prominence amongst us. I do agree with that. And this is one of the reasons I've stated that the message is more important than the messenger. I have said this for a long time, since I've been starting. Since I've really addressed the black manosphere again and again, I've been saying that many people, once you see someone, things change. And you know what? People have to show themselves to become famous or infamous. Now, you don't see any moving images of Mumia Obsidian Ali, but he has shown photographs of himself. You haven't seen photographs of me. You've seen a shadow on one video when I walked through a park and the sun was behind me. I'm not going to be famous, and that's okay. It is the message I want to be famous. Now, I'll take the money, sure. Appreciate that. And I mean that from the bottom of my black heart and from the depths of my black mind. But Pearl's message had to go along with her image. I had to go along with how she looks. She's not the only one. We already know. You don't show your face here, you don't make much, especially if you're a guy. There's a limit to how much exposure any one thing you say will get, and there is a limit to how much you will ever make from YouTube. And I know this. Therefore, I don't look to make much from YouTube. She's been able to do so, and she's had her dad to help her out, her wealthy dad. She got started by Me Tooing one of us, and it's true, school districts don't generally just completely terminate someone without evidence. So she had something on this guy. She absolutely did. Something. I simply don't care about what he did above 18. My issue with her, Me Tooing this guy, would have been serious, but she did have a younger sister that was about to go through that. And she has a right to protect her younger sister. As a matter of fact, she's required to do so if she can. We in the Manosphere have actually refrained from condemning her for things that are normal. The problem comes in, though, that we have allowed a certain level of prominence. And that was our mistake. And as a matter of fact, I don't think that we in the Black Manosphere should really accept much accountability on the U.S. side of the Black Manosphere, because this is a jurisdictional thing. The North American Black Manosphere did not prop her up so much. We gave her a head nod like, okay, yeah, we can agree with this point. We didn't really prop her up. That wasn't something we did. So we don't owe accountability to anyone else, but I do want to say to us internally that there's really not much to argue about. It's as simple as she's on point about gender relations, and she's your typical average Western European Caucasian when it comes to race relations. She did not interview, and Crimson Cure mentioned that she didn't interview Jordan Peterson. She interviewed Nick Fuentes. I don't blame her for being, none of us are supposed to blame her for being civil in the interview with Nick Fuentes. By the same token, none of us should miss that that's who she interviewed one-on-one. It was probably easier for her to get there to interview him. By the same token, she interviewed that guy, and she's interviewed many people. Many types of people. And she's being castigated now by folks who've done the exact same thing, interviewed those with opposing viewpoints and been civil to them despite the opposition of viewpoints. Some of these same folks are going in on her about that. What do you expect her to do? Cuss them out? But there is a comfort level, and we black folks have been castigated for having a comfort level with those whom white folk don't like. Arsenio Hall lost his show because he civilly interviewed Farrakhan. Arsenio Hall never at any point joined the NOI that I know of. Never eschewed pork or white women. Nonetheless, his show began to tank and nosedive because he interviewed Louis Farrakhan. Farrakhan was too much for him. He was too black. And because he was civil, he lost the show. He was white America's pet, so to speak. And I'm not saying that to knock Arsenio. It's just, hey, they loved him. But when he dealt with the issues affecting his people, they would have put up extra barriers for him to get that show. Then what the fuck happened? Well, then it's, you know what, you interviewed that Negro Farrakhan and you didn't go hard enough in the paint against Farrakhan. Donahue did. Oh, that was controversial. That was fine. So we've had people that have interviewed folks from amongst us, and I understand why we might say, you know what, F that. If we have to lose things because we're civil with people like Farrakhan, then you've got to lose things because you're civil with people like Nick Fuentes. That's true. That's a valid point. It's got to be one and the other, or neither one at all. I agree. But what I'm against is how we've acted like we're so surprised. I'm against anyone being surprised. She's not going at any point to turn on her people, even when they're wrong. She just ain't gonna do it. Doesn't matter how wrong they were, how wrong they are now, she's not gonna turn against them. Yeah, we'll do this to others. No, we ain't gonna let nobody do the same thing to us without wiping them off the face of the earth. The difference between us, and I want to point this out once, but I know I'm going to have to repeat this point 8 more times in my lifetime. At least, if I'm lucky, it'll be 8 and not 9. It'll probably be more than that. What makes us better than many other groups of people is not the DNA. It is the fact that if we will not tolerate somebody doing something to us, we won't turn around and do it to them generally. That's what makes us better. We're just simply more fair when it comes to other groups. And I don't think we're that way with each other. But we're more fair when it comes down to other groups. We don't get that same thing in exchange. That being said, thank you for listening. As always, black heart, black mind, blackout, assalamu alaikum, and black heterosexual non-select male power. Just because they don't like it in black patriarchy until extinction of judgment day. Thank you for flying again with me on Jet Black Airways, where jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting extra black with me till the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender justice forever.